Hi, my name's McCann, and I will be teaching you today about mental health in college athletics. So why I chose this topic? I chose this topic because as a college athlete, I feel like mental health is really not talked about, and it is a topic that needs to be talked about more because it's an ongoing thing in every single part of life. Everyone has a mental health struggle at some point, and it's important that people know that they can talk to others about it and that there are resources available if they need help. So why is mental health important? Within athletics, there are not very many resources available for those who are struggling. I think this is a really big problem because if you are struggling, you should know where you can go to get help. And I think that's a big reason why so many people don't get help at all with their mental health, is because no one knows what's available. And with that, college athletes are held to a very high standard on the field and in the classroom. With this, they are held to a physical standard and a mental standard. So you have to keep those two in mind because a lot of people just think it's a physical job to be a college athlete, when really there's such a big mental aspect to it that no one really talks about. And without a mental focus, athletes will not be able to perform in either setting to their top form. If you're not mentally there, you can't perform in a game as well, and you can't perform in a classroom as well, which can cause your grades to slip, which won't even allow you to become a college athlete. And if athletes do not feel supported, they will not reach out when they need help. And I have a video, and it's about a college soccer player who played at Stanford, and it's kind of an example of why mental health is so important.
22-year-old Katie Meyer was just months away from graduation with a bright future ahead.
And I've never seen someone who's put so much heart and soul into so many different aspects of her life.
The star goalie of the Stanford University women's soccer team was a natural leader with a big personality.
And it only goes up from here.
The California native was found dead in her dorm room on Tuesday. The soccer world stunned.
She just lived life to the fullest, always.
We sat down with her parents, Steve and Gina Meyer, in the wake of the unthinkable.
She died by suicide. The last, couple days are like a parent's worst nightmare, and you don't wake up from it. So it's just horrific.
The close-knit family spoke often. Their final conversation with their daughter was just hours before she took her own life.
And she was excited. She had a lot on her plate. She had a lot going on, but she was happy. She was in great spirits.
It's the usual jovial Katie.
Yeah.
One constant could
Her
be
parents say they believe she received an email regarding a disciplinary action and that she might have been in trouble.
Katie being Katie was defending a teammate on campus over an incident, and the repercussions of her defending that teammate.
We have not seen that email yet. She had been getting letters for a couple months. This letter was kind of the final letter that there was going to be a trial or some kind of something. This is the only thing that we can come up with that triggered something.
Her parents now wondering if between school and sports, it was too much pressure.
There is anxiety, there is stress to be perfect, to be the best, to be number one.
The Meyers speaking out to make sure other parents don't suffer the same tragedy. The emotions of their loss are raw.
We're struggling right now, Stephanie. We are just struggling to know, what happened and why it happened, We're just like heartbroken. We're so heartbroken, and
Katie's mom wearing her daughter's sweatshirt, one she wore in a post just last Friday.
It's gonna sound crazy that every mom is gonna understand this, but when you smell it, it smells like her. It smells like Katie. Just her scent. I'm wearing it because it just feels, I wanna be close to her. So yes, it is hers.
The Meyer family has nothing, but praise for Stanford. Sorry.
It's okay, speak us.
They want to start a conversation about opening up communication between schools and parents. These parents feel they missed an opportunity to step in and possibly help. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
no sorry's necessary.
Thank you. That's how we all feel.
Yeah.
And we will be right back.
That's not an easy story.
So I feel like this example of how important mental health really just shows what can happen if we don't focus on mental health. She had other outside factors that were going on in her life, and she felt like she had no one to turn to, and unfortunately that caused her death. So I think that it is extremely important that we talk about mental health, because we obviously don't want another outcome like that. And it also shows that mental health happens everywhere. On a college that is known to be one of the best colleges in the US, a student took their life because of mental health. So, and with that, do athletes think their mental health is taken seriously? Based on who's in this room right now, would you guys say that your mental health is taken seriously?
It's alright, could be a little
So-so.
better.
Yeah, could be better.
So, yeah.
So generally, college athletes do not believe that their mental health is taken seriously. And based on a survey created by the NCAA, 55% of male athletes and 47% of female athletes believed that their mental health was a priority within their athletic department. So this is about half of the students that took this survey from multiple campuses across the US, which I think that that is a terrible number. There should be way more people who think that mental health is a priority. And if you compare that to our community, this should be roughly 50% of our athletes. So 50% of the people that we know that do athletics here may be struggling with mental health, and they don't think that anyone cares. And then, do college coaches feel their mental health has been addressed? While the mental health of college athletes is very important, it is also important to promote positive mental health in coaching as well. Because if their mental health is not addressed, how can they help their athletes? If they are struggling themselves, when a player comes to them with their own personal struggles, are they going to be able to give them the best help that they can? Another NCAA survey addressed coaching specifically and found that roughly 40% of all coaches felt either mentally exhausted, overwhelmed, or experienced sleep difficulties because of their job as a coach. This shows the overall importance of mental health within the athletics world. And why is this important to our community? Our community is full of athletes. As stated by our university's homepage, 68% of our students play sports, which means that roughly 34% of our community feels as if mental health is a priority. That means that over half of our community does not see their mental health as a priority here at Dakota Wesleyan, which is not good for our community. Therefore, a major goal within this community needs to be improving our support systems, which can start with anyone. And what support do we currently have on campus? Our university has two major support systems in place. This is Kimberly Lineman, who is our licensed professional mental health counselor. I believe that Kimberly does a very good job of making sure that all students that come to her are taken care of, and all of their mental health problems and struggles are met with acceptance, and she's very open about making sure everyone is doing well. But we don't really promote her as a resource that often, so how can you know to go to her if we don't promote it? And then the second system is On Track, which On Track is basically a system where any faculty member can report a student's name they feel it could be having a mental health struggle, and the school will do a mental health wellness check on them, and depending on what outcome they find, they can help this student get counseling or any sort of support that they need. And these systems can be extremely effective, but they are not always talked about, which is why I believe we are only scratching the surface on what we could be doing as a community to help others with their mental health struggles. And then what can we do to improve our community? So there are many ways that we could prioritize mental health in our community, and some of these are having coaches be taught how to properly spot those who need help and how to help them. If we made every single coach that we had here on campus do mental health training, then that would significantly increase those who want to come forward to their coaches and what they notice as well. Because if our coaches are not trained correctly, they may not even know that something's going on with their athletes. With that, we could also have sports psychologists or sports mental health counselors. With having specific counselors and psychologists relating to sports, that gives athletes the feeling that they are being thought of and they are the priority, which means that athletes are going to be way more likely to go to these counselors and these support systems to get the help that they need. And then we could also train all of our athletic staff on the importance of mental health. If we trained all of our ATs, GAs, coaches, etc. on how to spot mental health and how to help athletes, then we could significantly increase the help within mental health. Because a lot of the times, I feel like athletes will go to people such as their athletic trainers to tell them about the burnout they're feeling or the stress they're having with classes, which I feel like a lot of the time they don't really know how to talk about that, and so they might just hear us venting, but they might not know what the next step would be to do. And then we could also have specific members on each team be trained in mental health. If even on our own women's soccer team we had a couple either volunteered or nominated players who were trained on how to help others with mental health, then our athletes would feel like they had someone they could go to talk about all their problems with, or that those players would be able to spot what was going on more. This would allow athletes to feel like they had that just built-in support system right off the bat within their own team. So then if they were uncomfortable with going to an authority figure or any adult on campus, they could go to their teammate to talk about what they were going through. So what to do if you notice someone who is struggling? The main thing to do is just to be open with them. Just allow them to talk about what they're going through, and just be there for them. Let them know that you're there for them, and help them get the support that they need from professionals. This could just be going to your coach and telling them what's going on to have them help find the support that they need. It could be getting them in contact with 988, which is our mental health crisis line. It could be talking to the counselors on campus. It could be having your coach submit an on-track report. There are lots of options you could do to help those who are struggling with mental health. But overall, just be open and let them come to you and let them feel supported by you. And what if you are struggling? If you're struggling, do not feel afraid to get help. It is extremely important that others know what you're going through, so then we don't end up with a crisis like they had at Stanford. And confide in someone you trust. You don't necessarily have to go to an authority figure about what you're going through. If you have even one close teammate or one close friend or a parent, guardian that you feel like you can go and talk to about what is going on in your life, then that can significantly help you. Because a lot of people who go through mental health struggles feel that venting is the best way for them to get rid of their problems. If people just even have someone to go and vent to, that can help relieve a lot of your stress. And lastly, allow your mental health to be a priority. If you don't allow your mental health to be just as much of a priority as your physical health, then you will most likely struggle as an athlete, because with all the pressure that we are on as athletes to perform, it is extremely important to make sure that we are mentally there just as much as physically. So just as much as you would want to go to your AT to get any physical problems treated, you should go to those who can help you with mental as well. And then with that, we have my brochure. So this just kind of goes over a lot of what I have talked about and gives some details and different people that you can go to for support. And it talks a little more in depth about why this is important, what we have on campus, all that good jazz. And there's a couple more statistics on the front about, for example, one says that among that group of 30% seek help, but among college athletes with mental health conditions, only 10% seek help. Therefore, we need to find ways to increase that number and help the people that need help, and help see the people that need help as well. So then here are my references, and then do we have any questions? Thank you.
During your research, did you find any training programs for the coaches and athletic staff, or will there be if you want to add this into the program?
So I didn't really have a lot of opportunities to find a lot of training programs that were available, but when I was looking at the surveys through NCAA, they had some that they were implementing. So I would have to do a little more research to find exact names of certain programs, but they were talking about with their studies that they found how they're going to implement different programs. So I think that we could almost mirror what they're doing over at NCAA campuses and mirror those into our programs as an NAIA campus. Cool. Any other questions?
So it said that there was 47% of female athletes feel that they're not seen, or they
that they are seen.
That they are seen, and 55%
of male
feel like they are. Does that kind of mirror when it comes to actual acting and like suicide and other stuff? Like, is it like, is there a less percentage of men who commit suicide in athletic fields and a lower percentage? Like, how do I word this?
So I think with what you're saying is like, generally, there is a higher percentage of females that do end up committing suicide than males, which I feel like is why males like think that they're seen more in mental health. But then with that, a lot of male athletes or just males in general will kind of try to mask what they're going through, and they don't want to actually admit, even when it's an anonymous survey, that they're struggling. So I think that's why like the statistics for them feeling more seen is even higher than females, because I feel like as females we're a lot more like prone to be open about what we're going through than males would be, which is why I feel like that statistic is higher.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
I'll let you go, Linda.
So another athlete that kind of had a mental health incident where she like needed to step back was also Simone Biles.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully she didn't take her own life, but she was receiving like hate messages. So why do you think some people judge others for like taking a step back because of like mental health?
I think a main reason why others like judge you for taking a step back because of your mental health is because I think that mental health is kind of seen as a bad thing currently in our society. I think that there's a stigma around mental health, and like if you're having a mental health problem, you're weak is what is really seen throughout college campuses, like pro sports, even high school sports. It's like if you're going through something, you should just bury it down is kind of what's seen, where that's become an like increasingly bigger problem that people feel that way. So I think a big reason why she was getting the hate is we still haven't gotten over that stigma that it's okay to talk about your mental health, and it's actually better for you to get your mental health treated, and if you're there mentally, then you just bury it down and rub some dirt on it, or you know, deal with it.
You can completely cut this question out because I'm gonna word it in a weird way, but do you think that only 10% of athletes actually reach out because like they're just so used to the pressure that they're like, oh yeah, I can just thug it out again, you know, like.
No, I know what you mean, but yeah, I think that is a big reason. Like I was saying about the last question, it is kind of a stigma to reach out, and like with that, especially where we have a smaller campus and we don't have that many support systems built in for mental health, I think that a lot of people don't reach out because they feel like they have no one to go to, or that if they go to like the certain people, like a lot of people think if I go to a counselor, something's wrong with me, which isn't true. If you go to a counselor, that is perfectly fine. It's way better to go to a counselor. But I think, yeah, a lot of the reason why people don't seek help when they're struggling is because they feel like if it's not a physical issue, then they're not actually struggling.
Did you notice in your research at all talking about like current times versus athletes like a few decades ago? Like, is there better mental health awareness, or is there an increase of issues?
I would say that there's definitely better mental health awareness. I think ever since COVID, there's been a lot more focus on mental health, and I think with that, we're getting better as a society of realizing that mental health is a real problem, and I think that that's allowed for a lot more people to come forward. So I would say that there's definitely more like resources, and people are prioritizing it a lot more than they were a couple decades ago.
Being on the women's soccer team, have you had any of your own teammates like come up to you saying they've had like any mental health issues, and if so, like what topics were brought up that were on their mind causing them to?
I actually have had quite a few teammates who have come to me, especially when we're in like heavier parts of our seasons where we're expected to practice multiple times a day, play back-to-back games, all that good jazz. And I'd say that a lot of the problems were due to just having so many assignments to turn in, and then also having multiple practices to go to, or like one practice a day, and then you also have film to go to during the week. And if you're struggling with an injury, that can cause problems too, where you feel like because you can't perform because you're injured, that something's almost wrong with you, and that causes stress, and all you want to do is get back to playing. And so a lot of that just comes from just the overall stress of what it is to be in college, because I'd say even just being in college and not being an athlete, there's so much stress that you go through every single day. So then when you add that extra layer on top of it, it just causes a lot of people to feel like they just don't know what to do.